I'd be on here struggling. Child. Jesus. Hey, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Dance Talk Realness, a podcast where we discuss all nuances concerning education and dance because the dance experience is an experience worth talking about. I'm your host, Truly B. I'm here with my awesome, as always, co host, Darryl P. Hey.
Hi.
And today I am going to be interviewing Darryl in our, I'm going to call it a pilot episode. Ha ha ha, pilot.
Yeah.
Pilot episode of a little subtopic thing that we not messy, we just saying. So we go see how this goes. Mm-hmm. So to start it off, I think this first one should be about what was the absolute worst dance teaching job that you've ever had. And if you have to protect some names, that's fine. Like, I don't want you to get in trouble with anyone, but just, I guess, just kind of lay out the scene for us, and I'll ask questions throughout.
Yeah. Well, there was one that I had in mind when we first talked, and I was like, well, is that the worst? Because right now it sticks off as like, that was pretty bad. But yeah, this was pretty bad. Okay, so this was, let's see, trying to also protect names and protect time period, because if anybody listens to this, it's going to be pretty clear as to when this was.
But it's like, if you know, you know.
If you know, you know, yeah. And you know, the thing about it is that what made this job, I would say, the worst or bad, is that it wasn't the students. You know, sometimes it's never the students, right? It's always the adults that really kind of mess everything up.
Agreed.
So, okay, so I was a long-term sub at a school for, and even this setup was kind of janky too. So a friend of mine had this position, a good friend of mine, and for whatever reason just didn't want it. It just wasn't working out for her and her scheduling and with family and everything. And so basically was commuting to this job like during the week and going home on the weekends. So commuting about 3 to 5 hours. Yeah, for this teaching job. Right, exactly. And at the time I was living someplace and was looking for something permanent, but also was just looking for a job in general. And so I ended up going there to be a long-term sub, because the idea was that this person was going to come back at the end of the year once things kind of work themselves out, and then potentially that I would work at this place too. So, you know, we would both end up being there kind of like in maybe like director assistant role or, you know, some type of capacity. Well, so I get there and we just both have two very different teaching styles. One, which isn't bad, but I think she is more of like, I'm a little bit more like laxed, maybe a little bit more relaxed, and she's just definitely like, if it ain't like this, then it's going to be hell to pay. And I'm just kind of like, well, if it's not going to be like this, fine. You're just not going to get the grade, or you're just not going to dance. Like, I'm just very matter of fact. Like, I don't have time to yell at you, to scream at you. You're just not going to perform. And that's just going to be how it is. So anyhow, long story short, with this portion of the story is that she ends up not coming back. And that became apparent. So this was like from the beginning of the year until like December, January. So in January, I officially signed a contract that I would be the teacher there. But I was kind of in limbo because there was a lot of things that she was trying to do. And I was really just more or less like a mouthpiece, almost trying to fulfill like the things that she wanted. So she would tell me like, hey, these are the things that I have an idea for. I would go and say it. But then like if a parent was mad, or if even at this point a student was mad, or like an administrator was upset, like I'm just sitting there like, well, I don't, these are not my decisions. Like these are decisions that are coming
Yeah.
from someone else. I'm just at this point, the long-term sub. So, so this school was in a very small town. I think I might have even talked about this scenario before, but it was a very small town. One high school, two middle schools, and like a handful of elementary. So basically, everybody is accessible from the superintendent to the school board members. Um, it's a town where like I'm teaching like second and third generation of people who have gone to this high school.
Mm-hmm.
So if not more than that. So there's a lot of like there's a lot of opinions of people who are in the community and feel like, well, this was what it was like when I was there. Why is it no longer like that? Or, this was changed. Maybe I could, push you into changing it back. So there was a lot of opinions. But anyhow, this dance team had gone through several different iterations of it. Something that was a very traditional, like football field dance team, something that was a little bit more like, I would say maybe more competition team, but like trying to mimic that onto like football field. And it's also in small town Texas. So everybody's super conservative.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
um, and so, um, anyhow, I ended the year with that first year. I ended that year with like trying to really revamp this dance team.
Mm-hmm.
And in doing so, sadly, like there were dancers that, you know, I feel like my friend kind of ran. I mean, not ran. She didn't run them off. They just didn't agree with the way that she ran things. So
Okay.
they left. They were like, I don't want to do this. I don't want to deal with that. I'm out. So when I got ready to do like auditions and to like kind of get ready for the next year, I was really left with like some very beginner dancers.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, very beginner dancers, and just didn't quite understand like what it meant to like really be on a dance team, right? And there's so many things that when I look back, I would definitely do different.
Mm-hmm.
Just from maybe even not having them perform as much, just to kind of focus on like one or two dances, and that just kind of be what we put out there instead of like feeling like every other football game they had to do a different dance. So they ended up learning like five dances, and only one of them actually looked good, and the other four looked terrible.
Oh.
Um,
Oh.
yeah, there was like, yeah, and the other thing is too. So when we roll around back to the beginning of the school year, the band teacher who I went to, and I said, hey, getting ready for the football season and for the halftime shows, you know, here are some ideas of some songs I would love for the band to learn. And he just gives me this stapled packet of paper and said, these are the songs that we have in our library.
That sounds about right. That sounds about right.
These are the songs we have in our library. You can pick from any of those and we'll make those work. Now, granted, I had no recordings of these songs, so I don't know what versions of the song. Because every song, not every song, but several songs have different arrangers. So there's
Mm-hmm.
different arrangements, different beginnings, different endings. They cut out a part of the song, etc. So I'm like, well, okay, when I pick these songs, are you able to pull this music and get the band to record so that way I have recordings of these and I can practice to these? Like it was so like that was one part that made it difficult. So not only am I working with music that I don't know what it
Mm-hmm.
sounds like, so I'm looking up like arrangers, and I believe there was one moment where I found a song, found an arrangement. He told me this was the arrangement, and then when he played it like Thursday night before the Friday night game, it is it's not totally different, but there are different parts. And so my
Yeah.
dancers are looking at me like,
Like you said that it
You
was this,
said
and I'm
this was
like,
it.
well, that's what I was
That's
told.
what I was told. Right, exactly. And then
Oh my
and then
gosh.
to kind of roll this, like to kind of not wrap it up, but just to also kind of
Yeah.
set the scene for this too, is that I don't have dance classes. Um, I am a ESL teacher with one class with the dance team in the morning, and I was also the JV and varsity cheer coach.
Okay.
Just trying to get all those stipends. Um,
Yes, money.
yeah, um, the JV and varsity cheer coach. And to be honest, like, so this was my second year. Struggle bus during football season. Um, so they struggled to just kind of gain that popularity. And for whatever reason, two of my dancers, probably two of the worst dancers on that team, goes to so MTV does a goes to like a couple of high schools in the area to see if they could cast kids for an episode of Made. And two of
Yeah.
my worst dancers goes to
No.
one of the auditions and says, "Well, we want to be made into a dance team." And MTV actually picks that up. So for yeah, so for like 2 to 3 months, they are being filmed on an episode of Made.
Shut up, sir.
Yeah.
Pause. Wait a minute.
I don't know. You could probably find it. I've never watched the episode. I've never seen it. I know it has aired, and some of my former students from another school have seen it. But you know what was interesting about it was that, like I said, it was two of like the worst girls on the team, right? Who like never really danced in anything. Who were probably like they were bad, right? And so I felt bad because probably while filming, I made sure that they looked. I mean, they were not good, and they hardly danced in things. And so, um, what was interesting was that we ended up going to these competitions, right? Because like I had busted my ass to like get them to a place where I felt like, okay, we could take them to competitions, and they actually won at these competitions. So it was almost like one of those things where it's like, why were we on Made? I don't get it, but whatever.
Because folks smooth just be like, well, this is the only way we can really make it. I'm like, you do know
You
that
do
is
know.
really not though. Oh,
It
I'm
really
going
isn't.
through all these seasons. I'm
No.
looking like
I was
transparency.
so it was filmed in 2012.
Scrolling, scrolling, scrolling. Okay.
2012, but if you're looking at air dates, I don't think it aired until like 2014 or 2015.
I can start there and work my way back.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's so funny because I feel like it just wasn't a good. I mean, I feel like just being in it, it just
Does
was
it?
not a
Does the
fit for
name?
me.
I ain't gonna put people out here, but does it start with a C?
Yes.
I see it. I see it. Oh, we're about to look this episode up. We're watching this today. We're watching it. I want to see it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So before you go further, because I'm still stuck on this, I got questions.
Yeah. Yeah.
So these two individuals who happen to
Mhm.
be dancing, because I ain't gonna call them dancers, these two individuals
Mhm.
make this decision that we think this is the route. So, in the process of being recorded, is it only them or is everyone getting kind
It
of
is
roped in?
it is everyone getting roped in to it. Even I am roped into it because it's so funny. Like
I'm about to
I go
watch
and
this.
meet. I know it's so I yeah, I don't know.
You can
Uh,
tell me who they are off air for
oh, I
real.
will. I will. Oh, trust me, I will.
Yeah.
No, it is it's totally set up, right? Like it's
Mhm.
totally like, that's why I watch reality TV show like so differently, because it's like, I met the maid coach at a restaurant, and like we sit, and so they're like, okay, we're gonna film her walking in, and
Oh
you're gonna be
God.
seated, and we're gonna film in a couple of different ways, and like I may say something, and they're like, oh wait, I didn't get that on camera. Can you say that again? And I'm just like, all
That
right. So
sounds
now, so like
annoying.
that feels very scripted, right? So it's like scripted, unscripted television. But yeah, no. So we were all roped into this experience that, honestly, like I what I felt like I wanted them to get a boost of confidence, because that's really what they were missing, right? Like
Yeah.
they had they had they had the skills, because not to toot my own horn, but I was definitely like I said, like they were practicing, they were working on stuff, like they had been building skills from the previous year and
Yeah.
up until they decided to do this homemade thing. So like we had routines, we had routines, we had you know all this other stuff. And so like the I think the experience at least hopefully gave them some notoriety, or some whatchamacallit. I mean, they all still were not very good even the following year. I mean, what's funny is that two of the girls that were on the team that year, did they come back the second year? I think they did come back the third year. Maybe. Actually, no, they did. One of them did. Um, and she got better, which was great. Anyhow, the other thing that was kind of fucked up about it was that so what the maid coach did was she apparently like I'm trying to think if they took dance classes with her. I don't even think they took dance classes. So she choreographed a dance for them,
Hmm.
and they took it to a competition. So like that's what was so stupid about. So she choreographs a dance for them. She takes it to a competition to see if they can be now made into this dance team at this, because they actually ended up registering for a national um, for a national competition
Okay.
that was in Dallas. And they went and they won an award for it. But I mean, like to win like the big awards at these national competitions, like you have to bring more routines, etc.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, that's why I think it was so interesting, because even without the maid coach, they still went to competitions and we won.
I was like, we were doing this.
We were doing this. Yeah, exactly. I'm like, we were doing this already. So like, what did you make them into?
Oh, wow. Okay. Because
Yeah,
what it would lend itself to sound like is that prior to they weren't doing competitions and they weren't
right.
having these opportunities, but if you were already, and then essentially it's just you doing the same thing, just somebody else choreographed it this time.
Right.
What is so
What's so
yeah. I
wow
mean, yeah,
about
you
that?
got to be on TV, I guess.
Yeah, I think
But
I
also,
think
I don't know that I want to be on TV looking crazy. Like, I don't know that I'm okay with that.
right.
That's me. That was me as a child too. That I was like, I know I'm not that good. Don't put me out there.
Yeah. So anyhow, so that was 2012, 2013. And then so that same year, and this is and I like I said, it's not the kids, and I think it's just circumstances, because I'm like, I don't know if that child will ever watch this. It's one of like it's interesting how, gosh, this has been now 7, 8 years later,
Mm-hmm.
your relationship with the student and even the parent is a little bit different. But I would say, I think I had a student who really wanted to be in a leadership role and to be
Mm-hmm.
like the head captain of the dance team. Um, and she just wasn't, she would have been a senior. She just wasn't there yet.
Mm-hmm.
But there was a junior who, leadership skill wise needed some work, but dance wise was probably just a little. I mean, none of these kids were like like, they're not going to
Oh,
Broadway or New York or
yeah.
anything like that, but they weren't bad.
Yeah.
um so anyhow, this junior ends up being the captain the next year, but this girl and her family did do a lot of like, were very helpful that
Mm.
second my second year there. But I hope, maybe it was for, we're going to do these things because we want our daughter to be in this position, or our daughter deserves this position because we have, as a family, have really helped to try to build this program. And it's like, yes, I totally am appreciative of that,
Yeah.
but I also don't want to use your help as like, that's gonna get her into this
Yeah.
position. She
Like
has to get,
it's a
she has,
bribe.
right, exactly. Like
Yeah.
she has to get there on her own. But shit, what did I do that for? Because then the next year, that family just seemed like they were not as helpful, and anyhow, it seemed like they were more resentful, right? And so anything that I said, instead of being like, they used to be like, yes, this is what we're gonna do, we're gonna be there, we're gonna have fun. It was more like, well, why are we doing this? It was really more like
Yeah.
questioning and like, well, I don't know if we agree with that. It was just a lot of attitude
Hmm.
that was there. Um,
Yeah.
so I was dealing with that. And then the icing on the cake for this year was that we had gotten a new athletic director who was now in charge of cheerleading, but also wanted to be well, I think she was more so in charge of cheerleading, but dance got coupled underneath that with her. And from what everybody said is that she was the type of person that like, you you did what she said,
Hmm.
um, and you don't have an opinion.
Not as an
Right.
adult, we're not
Not
doing that, but okay.
hello.
I mean, all right though. All right, sis, go off. But not as a grown woman. I
Right,
can't.
right, exactly. And so, yeah, she she seemed like she was really like on my side until some parents got into her ear. My like probably the parent of this one girl,
Hmm.
and definitely the parents of some of my cheerleaders got into her ear about like feeling like they wanted things a certain way and that I was refusing to do them that way. And so instead of it being like a team of like she coming to me and saying, hey, these parents are saying this, like just kind of give
Yeah.
me a background of like what you're like, what it is that you do. Cause I don't know, right? Like
Yeah.
she's new, right? What are your ideas? Maybe we can try to come to some compromise, which I'm always, I'm willing to do that. Um, but no, her thing was this is what I want, and the things that she wanted was the things that these parents were
Hmm.
telling her that they wanted.
Yeah.
Um, and so she and I just constantly disagreed, constantly disagreed. And disagreeing with somebody who comes from a place where it's like you don't disagree with me, it was awful. And the thing is that I was really good, I would say really good friends with the principal at this school, and it's almost like the superintendent was his job was on the line with the school board, the principal's job was on the line with the school board, which they ultimately both ended up um, being, I wouldn't say being let go, but
Hmm.
leaving their positions. Hold on real quick, my my little do-rag is getting too tight. That I'm trying to hide with my
You should have
hat.
kept that camera. Cut that camera back off.
All right, we're back.
He was like, but wait,
But wait,
fix this.
let me
Fix
fix
this.
this real quick. Um, so yeah, so there was a lot of things that I think that they agreed with me on, that they were definitely like, yes, but I feel like when your job is on the line, like, and you feel like there's somebody who is, um, there's somebody in a high up position where parents are feeling like they're able to tap into that,
Yeah.
like it gets real political
Yeah.
really quickly.
Yeah, it does.
Um, and so I was really felt like I was just on this island by myself. And I we did not that year. We were going to go to competitions, but because of like the drama with most of my dance team, the drama with like this woman. I was like, I'm not doing anything. I'm not taking.
Yeah.
I don't have. You know how we always say, I don't have to do
Because
any
I
of
don't have,
this.
it's not a part of my
It's
contract.
not a part of my contract to take you to any of those places. Like my
Yes.
contract is to teach you from 7:30 to 2:30,
Mm-hmm.
and then I can bounce.
Yeah. And I sure will.
Right. And I
Yes.
did.
Yes.
And I did. So I remember around this time I was like debating on what I would was going to do the next year, and I ended up like quitting and
Mm-hmm.
putting in my resignation without a job lined up. That's how bad I was. Like I came here looking for a job.
Yeah.
I can leave here
Looking
looking
for
for a
look, it's
job.
fine.
Yeah, it's fine.
It is fine.
Yeah. Um, but that would have to be the worst experience
Mm-hmm.
of teaching, just because it was also an experience where I doubted even teaching it. Like that's when I decided to get my
Mm.
MBA, because I was like, maybe I don't need to be a dance teacher. Like this was the second school. At that point I had only been teaching, I think those were like year 5,
Mm-hmm.
5 and 6, something like that. I guess I had started there with 3 years of teaching under my belt.
Yeah.
So here I was, like, what, 27 years old, um, really trying to make these decisions. Um, and like with adults that I felt like, maybe they did know more than me.
Mm.
These are people that have taught for a long time, but also feeling like I'm 27 years old and I wanted to prove that, like, hey,
Yeah.
I can do this. Like I know what's right. Like I've experienced this before. And I think also coming off of like being in college where like there were some, I've talked about this too in episodes, where there were some doubts of me even like, would I be able to be a successful dance teacher,
Yeah.
in these environments. So I think I just went in there with like a lot to prove. And the interesting thing is that like this dance team now, because I still follow it, they have gone through another iteration where a new teacher has like changed the name a little bit, and like
Mm-hmm.
their style and stuff is still the same, and the team has definitely gotten bigger and has grown. um but it's like it's one of those things where I feel like I definitely will pat myself on the back and say I know I played a role
Yeah.
in getting that and shaping that to where it is now, because yeah, like it so when I left, another woman took over for me, and
Mm-hmm.
um, there was a lot of other things too. Like there was just costume issues. Like we had ordered a costume from a friend. Well, there's so many things. Like there were budgeting issues, right? So of course there's never enough budget for the arts, right? And so we were
True.
trying to get like another costume. So I was trying to find like something that was somewhat quality and somewhat cheap, and that would also be able to be done quickly.
Mm-hmm.
So I went with a friend of mine who gave me this outfit that like he ha- it was shitty. It was a shitty costume.
Oh.
Um, and sadly we paid him for it, but
Mm.
it was just really terrible. And then the next year, um, I think I used him again.
It's like,
I know, didn't learn the
because you
first
be
time.
trying to support your friends.
Right, I really
Like, you
be
be
trying to
trying.
support him. Yeah, and it's like he started, and like this was the year that I had all those issues with the parents and with the athletic director. And so like there got to a point where he would tell me like on Mondays, I'll have the costume to you by Thursday.
Mm-hmm.
And then when Thursday would roll around and I would call him, he would like not pick up his phone. Yeah, it was like that type of like, it was like, I mean, it was like on top of everything that I was like dealing with
Yeah.
at that time. Like though that was like the moment where I was like, I really need somebody to like be on my side.
Yeah. I was like, can somebody be in my corner,
Can
please?
somebody
Because
be in my damn corner? Because right now I am, once again, I'm on this island
hmm
alone. And, you know, the sad thing is, and I think I'm one of those teachers. I'm super transparent. Like I told these parents, like, this is what's happening, right?
yeah.
And the good thing is, I will say, is that those parents that I thought were really, at times they did kind of circle back and were like, okay, no, we do want to support you, because they even were like, let us, give us the number, we'll call,
Yeah.
and we'll let them know that, we are parents, and that they're, you know these kids were waiting to wear certain things, right? And then that comes up, right, where, like, people are like, well, we bought these other pieces of this outfit to wear during football season, and we're not able to wear them because we don't have the entire costume, so
Mhm.
why did we spend money on this?
Yeah.
Then I'm trying to justify, well, okay, well, think of some other ways in which we can fit those into, us wearing, it was really it was really a stressful fucking year.
It sounds like
It
it.
was super. I
Oh.
mean, even from just from it was a stressful year and a half, I will say.
Mhm.
Just from the time we did that whole um May thing to, like, the end of that year, whenever I was like, I'm peacing out.
Yeah.
It was just really, a struggle. But it's one of those things that I'm glad I did it. I'm glad, you learn from those experiences,
Yeah.
right? Like, um I think it's, like we were just talking, before the call. Um, those experiences, like, it's not like those experiences are never going to happen again, right? Like,
Yeah.
we
True.
will I will I potentially will have another experience where a parent will feel like, actually I'm kind of looking forward to that happening again, because at least then I will feel like there's 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 motivation to be good, and there's motivation at
Mhm.
home to be good, right? Because I feel like when the parents are involved and they're like, my daughter or my son deserves should be this, at least the parent is at home being like, no, I want you to be great, right? When you don't get that, it's just kind of like, the child isn't getting that much support, at
Yeah.
home. Sometimes it gets a little too crazy and out of hand, but
Facts. So true.
yeah, but at least there's that drive. There's another push coming from home,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, um, if current day Darryl was able to go back to, was this 2012
Hmm.
Darryl, and tell him anything, what would you tell him?
Oh, um, hmm. I don't know. A part of me just would have been like, I think what I would have told 2012, what I would tell 2012 Daryl is to, like, get your shit together, because I feel like that was the other thing that really compiled on all of
Mm-hmm.
it, was that I felt like I did not have all my ducks in a row, and it probably made
Okay.
it easy for it to look like, well, you know, you're not
Yeah.
doing this, you haven't done that, like, so therefore that's also why some of these things were happening. And I feel like, if I had all my things lined up, I think I definitely would have been able to handle some of those costuming situations. I think some of the drama that was happening on the
Mm-hmm.
team, I think I just would have been able to kind of nip that in the bud really easy, especially with those parents. Like, I think I would have just, gosh, I don't know why I never sat down with my principal and that parent and just said, this is what this is, and if you're unhappy with
Mm-hmm.
it, then you and your daughter cannot be on this. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I just would have done that. Um, and I think I definitely just would have been able to, like, keep my foot down on that athletic director when she was starting to make all these requests, even with, like, cheer and stuff. like just to kind of say this is not what we're doing, and to also tell those parents this is also not what we're doing.
Yeah.
So don't go to her and ask and request those things. You know, I wish I had was a little bit more bold, right? Because I think none of those things, I think, although they may sound rude, I think those are things that, like, I think as sometimes as teachers, as dance teachers, I feel like we get run over because, you know, we are in the business of pleasing both, you know, parents and administration and students and everything. And I think that sometimes we don't stick up for what we think is right.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and we should be heard. So I wish that yeah.
Yeah, because definitely to that point, and something that I'm still current day working on is that reminder of, but we are the experts.
Mm-hmm.
Like we know what we're doing. Like,
Yeah.
and I agree with you that it's. I can see how people think it sounds rude because as a society, we are trained to, at least for us, trained to not be that type of direct,
Mm-hmm.
that only certain people have the privilege of being that direct. And it's like, well, actually, no, that would benefit a lot more people if, and it's like, you don't have to be disrespectful when you say it, but sometimes you just have to say, okay, yeah, but we're not doing that.
Mm-hmm.
And this is why.
Right.
And sometimes it's just, yeah, no, we're not doing that because I said we're not doing that. Like, we're just, that's not the path that we're on. And there's nothing, or there shouldn't be an issue, particularly if you are the dance director, if you're the one running the program, then it's like,
Right.
I was hired for a reason.
Yeah.
Trust me to do this. Now, if I'm doing something to like damage children, okay, then, you know, yeah, call me on that. That's cool.
Right.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
But if it's just because I chose a purple costume and you'd rather it be yellow, you don't get the fuck out of my face. Like, just trust me. I am choosing this for a reason.
Yeah.
And yeah, it just shouldn't be that struggly bus for us. But yay, thank you for sharing.
Yeah.
Because child, that was a journey. When I tell you, I'm gonna find this episode and I'm gonna watch it.
When you find it, let me know. Because honestly, I think, you know, now 8 years later,
And like, you've never watched it?
I've never watched it. I've never watched it.
I don't think I would
once.
either.
Yeah, I think a part of me is like, I think it would just frustrate me to watch it, just because it's like, because I called one of the producers because there was a woman who just never, we only talked to her over the phone.
Mm-hmm.
We never talked to her in person because she was in LA. And I remember just being pissed because there was something so our maid coach had some rehearsals with them without me. And so, you know, of course, the girls would come in and they would be like, oh, she said this about like some of like the choreography that we had done in one of the competitions. And I was like, listen, like, don't try to like go on air to make it seem like, well, I'm your better dance teacher and the one that you have is, you know what I mean? So I was like, if your idea of this show is to like defame me to try to make your maid coach look good, then like, let's go ahead and cut this contract now.
Yeah. That is so trash.
Yeah. So it was stressful.
I believe it. I 100% do. I probably would have never watched it either. I probably still wouldn't to this day. But if I find it, I'm going to send it to you. I'll watch it for you.
Yeah, watch it for me and let me know.
Like these kids.
These kids have the nerve. Yeah, watch it for me. And then maybe that could be an episode.
Yes. Yes. I love it. I need to find it. Find it.
Yeah.
That's happening now. We have just decided I need to find it so that can be a whole react episode.
Yeah.
Oh my God, yes. All right. Thank you all for joining us here yet again at Dance Talk Realness. If you have any questions, comments, anything for us, feel free to drop us a line. Be sure to like, follow, comment, subscribe, and all that jazz across all the places where you can find us. And we look forward to bringing you some fresh new content next week. We'll see you then. Bye.
Bye.